Yes.
So, how on earth did you get involved in that can thing? I mean, that looks like completely non-crackers.
It was hugely embarrassing, and I had no idea you were going to show it until about 10 minutes ago. Thank you so much for doing that. It was, Stephen Follows, as with so many things in my life, the great Stephen Follows, Good King Follows, as some people know him, is a producer of some renown. Is that's one word for it, I suppose. He gave me a call. We're good friends and have collaborated on a lot of stuff, including a competition entry for a Joss Whedon competition that we won. In fact, we won twice and then unwon once. I'll explain that later. But he just phoned me up and said, "Oscar, we're going to Cannes. Do you know anyone who can present? Do you know any presenters who can do this this Cannes trip?" And as he was describing it, it transpired that they were going the next day. They'd lost someone who wasn't being paid enough or something like that, or they couldn't afford her, or she was distracted. I can't remember. Anyway, they lost their presenter. Have you got any friends? Like, you get this call. You must get these calls all the time, Chris. Like, have you got a sound recorder? It's always sound recorders. Have you got this person? Have you got that person? And as he was describing it, I went, "Hang on, this is a free trip to Cannes. Tell you what, I'll do it." And I went and I met his producer that he was working with. I sat him down and went, "Right, these are the 2 reasons that you shouldn't take me. These are the reasons that you should. The reasons that you shouldn't take me being, I'm not a pretty girl." And
let me just stop you there, Oscar. We're just having a minor technical problem.
Am I rustling?
No. You're muffling, not rustling.
Okay.
Is that better, James?
That's better.
Live TV, eh?
Yeah. So it's I said I'm not a pretty girl. I'm not I'm not going to get Martin Scorsese wanting to flirt with me or whatever, but I've been to Cannes a few times, and I think I will talk the language of the people who are watching this thing, the people who are going to come to Cannes for the first time and will be terrified like I was, and I will know some things that I would have wanted to hear.
How many times have you been to Cannes?
4 or 5 now.
I've
lost track.
For filmmakers who've never been to Cannes, what advice would you offer them? What would you say? Listen,
First of all, watch InsideCannes.com. InsideCannes.com. We put a lot of advice on there, and I was mostly trying to push on them the stuff that I wish I'd known. A lot of it is just really about having someone to show you the ropes when you get there. I think what was the key points in it? I think stuff like initially, if you wanted to, like the way that you party surf. The first kind of trip there, when you don't have anything that you're pushing, and like that's rule 2, make sure you have a thing you're pushing. But if you don't have a thing you're pushing, and you want to go to parties, that way of hanging out at one, making friends with people that look like they're going to the next one, and then going to the next one, and then at the next one hearing about the next one that's on.
Right, so you develop a party buddy system in order to party surf.
Yes.
What's this got to do with filmmaking?
Absolutely nothing, Chris, except that the way in which it eventually has been helpful in the long run is meeting people, which I guess is the main function of
festivals. So it's really networking and connections.
It's networking and connections for a trip where you don't have a thing that you're there to do.
Right.
And then rule 2 is next trip. Once you know the ropes and you know the layout and you know what the Crozette is and you know who's in all of the pavilions and you've met people who are going to say hi when you get there, have a reason to be there, because people will detect very fast when you don't, and they will wish they weren't having a conversation with you.
Okay, so let's talk about this Dr. Horrible sing-along blog film, which is a nice kind of strange segue. You made a film for Joss Whedon, or Joss Whedon competition.
Not for Joss Whedon, if only. No, that was the first thing I did with Stephen. The Stephen that phoned me up and said, will you come to Cannes with me? Or rather, do you know somebody who wants to come to Cannes? And then I said, yes, it's me. He phoned me up. We'd met through a mutual friend who is a film composer, a very talented one called Michael Wills. I can't remember if he goes by the truncated name these days. But we'd met there. We liked each other's work. And Stephen phoned me and said, I've written a couple of entries for this competition that Joss Whedon is running. Joss Whedon of Buffy the Vampire Slayer had an online series, much like your own, I'm sure, in a sense, that he did with his own cash during the writer's strike in order to say, look, you can do this. You don't need the studio system. So he made the show with Doogie Howser in it, playing an evil supervillain who sang songs to his webcam, more or less. And he wanted people to enter this competition by inventing their own supervillain and doing a 3-minute video, which was their application to join the Evil League of Evil, which is the evil organisation he'd made up for this show. And so we invented 2. Well, Stephen invented 2 with his co-writer Matt Board. who also wrote a couple of songs for these because it was musical. So he wrote The Garnisher, who was an evil supervillain who was a waiter whose evil superpower was using garnish in an evil way, and Lord Stabbington, who was an upper-class English lord who basically just did puns about being evil initially, and then we rewrote him.
And Lord Stabbington is the one that actually won.
Well, oddly, what happened is there were about 700 entries, I think. I don't know officially, but someone told me about 700. And they're all up on YouTube, and then eventually Joss Whedon and his cohorts sort of picked their favourites. And we did these two, like I said, and initially we got a phone call going, the Garnisher has won, they've picked it, they've picked the Garnisher. And then a couple of days later we got another call going, we won Lord Stabbington. And there was this slightly awkward, like, oh wow, we've won twice. There were 10 winning slots on the DVD. The prize was to be on Joss Whedon's DVD of Dr. Horrible. And we'd won twice. And then we got this other call going, hang on, did you make both of these films? And we went, no, yes, we did. Okay. And they went, right, we're going to give one of them back to you, and they threw back the Garnisher.
Right.
And so, but for a moment there, we'd won twice.
Right. Okay. So, Lord Stabbington, we've put a link on the blog for people to watch it, so that if they want to see it later, then they can.